Welcome back to another edition of Dragon Ball Retrospectives, where me and Herms have discussions about, well, Dragon Ball, both the anime and the manga, making comparisons and having discussions about the writing and whatnot. And previously we had talked about the World Tournament and Great Saiyaman portion of the Buu arc. On this edition, we're going to move forward and talk about Majin Vegeta as well. And if you are new to the channel and you haven't checked out the previous editions, I will have the playlist down below so you can check those out. We've already covered Dragon Ball and most of DBZ as we move forward, so definitely go back and check out those conversations that Herms and I had about the series. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to it right now. Herms and me talking about Majin Vegeta and so much more. Okay, but before we talk about Majin Vegeta versus Goku, one last thing about Dabura. Do you feel, okay, I love the fact that he spits on you, turns you into stone, he does it on Gohan's glove, the fire breathing, the sword. What a cool freaking villain. The cape, he looks like Jafar, I think, the devil, whatever. Dude, this guy is so cool. Do you think that this villain was wasted? Meaning, do you think, based on all his incredible abilities and how cool he was, that he could have maybe been given more screen time, maybe been given a bigger role?
Well, I think that's why the anime beefed up his fight with Gohan so much, to do that, to give him a bigger presence. But I don't know. I feel like he's designed from the ground up to just be, well, I guess what they call it in wrestling is a jobber.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what they call it. How'd you know about that?
I don't know. I just heard it somewhere. But in Japanese, they have this. The term they use for that is a kamase inu, which is a bitten dog, which is like, where they have cockfighting, but then they also have, the same thing with dog fighting. And like they have a dog whose job is to lose to other dogs to increase the winning dog's confidence so that he'll do better in real fights. And so they use that term for these in shonen manga and things like that. These characters who get beaten up just to demonstrate how much stronger another character is. And I mean, with Dabura, like the second they say he's about as strong as Cell, like that's when you know he's doomed. It's the same thing with the Saibai men, where there's like, oh, they're about as strong as Raditz.
Right.
Or even the fact that Raditz happens to, the second person he meets happens to be the last major villain. And, just to show that, oh, this guy's stronger than Piccolo.
Yeah, or when Trunks kills Frieza. He's the jobber to Trunks.
Yeah,
and then Trunks says, go ahead.
And Kiwi being about as strong as Vegeta used to be before he powered up on Earth and all that stuff. It's just the kind of pattern throughout the series.
Yeah, it's a shonen trope, too. It's another trope that we see where you have the previous villain. I mean, we talked about that when we talked about the Otherworld tournament, how I didn't like that Paikuhan beat the fuck out of Cell and Frieza. They're trying to show how strong he is, and we talked about how if they had kept him around, which they couldn't, but if they did, it wouldn't have made me feel so bad. But the fact that he's just there and he disappears, we never see him again until movie 12 and near the end of the series, it's just kind of irritating, you know what I mean? But I do like the concept of, like, jobbing out the previous villain for the next villain, because the idea was Frieza took so many episodes to beat, he lost, came back, Trunks beat him in one shot pretty much, and then he says, well, yeah, that's impressive, but we got bigger fish to fry, and that's kind of the whole trope, I guess you can call it. Yeah. I don't know. So, episode 2.
I think the fact that you're left wanting to see more of Dabura just means he's a good villain. Like, on the flip side, would it have been better if he just stuck around forever and you just got sick of him? Which arguably is what happens with Buu. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Don't know. No, that's a very good point. I agree with you. To episode 229, a classic episode. I think one of the best in the series. Everything's on point. This is production-wise, this episode's damn near flawless. All right, Majin Vegeta and Goku go to, and by the way, I want to say this, Majin Vegeta, I believe, he's never called Majin Vegeta in the series.
No, not in the series itself. I think it's in the video games where they first do that.
Yeah, and then that became like his name, like in the fan sub trading, and then in like the Funimation of fans, Majin Vegeta was his name, but it fits. It's his freaking Vegeta with an M on his forehead. So they show up in the tournament grounds. He makes that wicked smile. He blows up the freaking the stadium. Everything's on point here. The animation, and then of course we gotta talk about Ryo Horikawa. Amazing. This is like Horikawa. When Horikawa's sitting here screaming at Goku, unbelievable. And this is the one thing about the Buu arc is, honestly, the Kai Buu saga, I don't know if my opinion, okay, I'm allowed to have an opinion. I think Horikawa really phoned it in for this in the Buu arc of Kai, whereas in the Zevil portion, he's just screaming and like, we'll talk about it, bro.
Well, I've never seen the Buu arc of Kai, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, in Z, he does a really amazing job.
When you see it, let me know your thoughts if you ever get around to it. I'm not saying he doesn't do a good job, but it's nowhere near this where he's just screaming.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a problem throughout all of the Japanese Kai, the Japanese version of Kai.
Yeah, but you know what's weird, Herms, is that for the Japanese Super, I feel like Horikawa is back. Like, he said...
Well, I mean, you know, with Kai, he's just redoing. It's literally the same stuff over again. So that'd probably be a little hard for anyone to give it quite as much force as originally. Whereas Super is new material, so that probably helps it.
But what's ironic about that is that the Kai dub is the opposite. They give that. Oh man, don't even get me started. Okay, so all right, Goku versus Vegeta fight. The rematch, they built it up for so many volumes, so many episodes. Vegeta wanted his rematch. He got it. When I was in high school, Herms, everybody thought this was the best fight in the history of Dragon Ball Z. What do you think?
I don't know. I think, again, like, it is, like, almost entirely filler, for one thing.
Yes.
Which, I mean, doesn't automatically make it bad, but I think you can kind of tell. Like, they just kind of, like, there's, in the end, so in the manga version, we kind of see any of them they're fighting. We just get kind of like their conversations in the middle of their fighting.
Yeah.
Which are really good. Like what Goku's like, oh, is this really what you? That's not what it's like. You know, like the whole thing about why he sold his soul to Babidi and all that stuff, and like, oh, I feel great now. It's like, oh, do you really? And you know, that's interesting. But apart from that, like, we don't really see much of them fighting beyond just kind of generic, you know, just punching each other. But the anime, like, so most of it just gets added in the anime, and I think like there's a lot of good stuff, but it's like there's kind of no structure to their fight as a result. It's like there's just a lot of them doing stuff, and then eventually they notice that Buu is around, and then, you know, they stop fighting.
Yeah, but there's a lot of great sequences, like the scene where he has him like up against the rock, and he slaps him in the face, and then Goku throws a rock at him. I thought that was fantastic, man. There's a lot of really good stuff here.
I guess I don't buy the rings he makes to pin him to the rock. I always thought that was kind of bizarre, but I don't know.
I liked it. That's
the thing. It's like, like, I think I do agree. Like, there are good parts. Like, it feels like it's a bunch of good bits strung together. But whereas, like, usually with like Toriyama's fights, when Toriyama's writing a fight, there's generally there's a kind of story within the fight. Like, there's a progression that you see that we don't quite get with the Majin Vegeta Goku fight in the anime, and with a lot of the other anime only fights. Yeah,
Toriyama has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah,
I understand that, and the thing about this is the ending of this fight was very inconclusive. You know, because Vegeta knocks Goku out. He turns his back on him. There's this scene where, you know, he's looking at the bag of Senzu, and then Vegeta clocks him with a double axe in the back, and he's knocked out cold. And that scene's kind of weird to me, because a lot of people, when you watch that scene, people have actually, and I don't blame them for thinking this, they think Goku saw him coming and let him hit him. You know what I'm talking about? How Goku has that smile? Like, if you look at it from just that perspective, people think this. And I don't, obviously that's not the case. He was looking at the Senzu, but the way Goku was smiling, some people think that he let him hit him. But then again, people thought that Goku did the fight against Frost last year. So, I mean, it's just, you know.
I mean, I think he's smiling because he thinks they're going to go team up and fight Buu. Like, that's kind of what he's talking about at that point.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm saying some people have perceived that scene as Goku letting Vegeta knock him out, which Goku would never let Vegeta knock him out with this dire situation with Buu being there. Now, we also got the pandemonium. Gohan, Kaioshin, Dabura, everybody's fighting Majin Buu. We saw the reveal of Majin Buu. He's fat. First you know, what is your first like impression? We're not supposed to take him seriously. That's the whole thing. He's fat. He does weird moves. He does weird flips. He's like an overgrown man baby. We're not supposed to take him seriously. And I think the idea, Herms, is to purposely make us, you know, think he's going to be a joke, and then we see him at full power.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of. I mean, it's a thing Toriyama does a lot. This is probably the most extreme example of an unimpressive person turning out to be super powerful. And I think I've mentioned this before, but when I saw this for the first time, I had no idea what Buu would look like.
Really?
So
wow.
Yeah, it's a complete surprise. Like I had no idea. So, and I liked it immediately. Like I think it is the thing. So the thing I like about Fat Buu's design is that it does look silly. When it needs to look silly, it looks silly, but he does look genuinely menacing at times as well.
When he makes that sick face or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, when he opens his eyes a little bit. Or the ending to one of the episodes where he's looming over Kaioshin with his arms and legs outstretched. And he just looks gigantic.
And several times, Herms, Vegeta refers to him as being immortal. Now, he's not really immortal, but... You know, they do everything to this guy. Dabura stabs him with the spear, all this stuff, and just nothing. They quickly established, because of how quickly Buu takes care of Dabura, that he's way beyond Cell. Gohan's a jabroni. Then we have, of course, as they call it in the dub, the atonement of Vegeta, which I think is a great word to use for this. Episode 237. You just said 5 out of 5, and that's it. Now's your chance to talk about it.
Well, I mean, I did have the screen cap of just the narrator's speech at the end, but yeah, I think this is like the whole episode. They just make it like in the anime, especially. It's just like perfectly done. And I guess yeah, one of the reasons I didn't give a review is that I can't think of anything interesting to say other than the fact that I think they did it perfectly. I mean, I just think like it's I mean, one of the high points of this series as a whole, and pretty much for the Buu arc, like it's kind of just all downhill from here. Even though there are other good parts after this, but like after this point, it is like it. This is the last 5 out of 5 episode review I gave. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, you've come close, but never actually a 5 out of 5, and that's actually, and I agree with you. This to me, I cut the Buu arc up into 3 or 4 parts, and I think this is the end of Act 1. Vegeta blows himself up. He thinks that Buu's over. This is the character arc of Vegeta, not fully being finished, so we got a little more later on, but close enough to where he did something selfless, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I almost would have been satisfied if this was just literally the last we saw of him, if he just never came back. I mean, we would have missed out on the "You Are Number One" speech and that kind of stuff, but I do think like this is a pretty good end for his character.
Okay, well, how about this one? How would you feel if this would have been the ending of the series? I am split because it is a pretty great ending for that character, but it's not very heroic. And Dragon Ball has a history of having heroic finales, like Goku versus Piccolo, where he throws the fist through his stomach. Goku and Frieza, Gohan and Cell. I feel like it would have been very different, but who knows? What do you think? What if it would have ended here?
I don't think it would have been a great ending, but I think that actually it could work as an ending. Yeah, like I actually saw, because back in the day when this was the Funimation dub was first airing, this was like one of their season cutoff points.
Yeah,
right?
This was the end of season 5.
Yeah, and so because of that, like I saw at least one person who did think that was the end of the entire series. So it's like it does like I think it could it does kind of make sense. Like this could be where they end it all. And I mean, I don't think that would have been good, but I think it does say something that it's close enough to, like, I mean, you couldn't like cut off midway through the Cell arc and have that make any sense. But this, for what this does, that could almost make sense.
Yeah. I mean, plus also Babidi was taken out by Piccolo, so you've got an ending where everybody's dead, and and we also
it's like the bad ending of a video game.
Yeah, well, or like the Future Trunks arc, which was depressing, but depressing ending. But it is it is very like Final Fantasy. Yeah, I agree, and it's interesting too because I don't know, I don't think it would have worked, but I think it could have worked. I agree with you. I think it could have worked there, but it just shows that Buu could even survive that. So and then we get to the I guess you can call them the aftermath episodes, which is a lot of wackiness with, you know, Bulma and crew trying to find the Dragon Balls. Goku wakes up. What were we gonna say?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I guess we should probably save that for next time.
Yeah, that'd be fine. The last thing I want to talk about here is the whole thing. Okay, so I guess this is a good arc finale. I guess this is a good I don't know what you call it. It would be a good finale for Vegeta's character, all that stuff. Let's talk about one last thing. The whole thing with Piccolo talking about Hell. Now, this has led to a lot of confusion with the fans, Herms, man, because especially with when it went with Kai, Z, and Resurrection F movie versus Super, because there's technically two Hells. There's Toriyama's Hell, which is the Hell we saw in Resurrection F that we actually didn't see in the Dragon Ball manga, we just heard about. And then there's the anime Hell, which is when Goku falls off the Serpentine Road and all that. So when Piccolo tells Vegeta, because that's a very important part, I think, when Vegeta says, "Hey, you know, will I be able to see Kakarot in the Otherworld?" And Piccolo's like, "No, you're gonna go to hell and your spirit and all that."
He doesn't, although he doesn't ever use the word hell in this speech.
Yeah, he says the Otherworld. Like, well, what happened here?
He says that here go to a different world than Goku went to, because Vegeta's killed too many innocent people, and so he'll go to a different place, and here his memories will be purged, his soul will be cleaned, his memories will be wiped away, and he'll be reincarnated as another life form. And he doesn't use the word hell, but this is essentially the Buddhist version of hell, pretty much to a T. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, in Buddhist, they don't have an eternal. They don't have like an eternal version of hell. Instead, you go there until your bad karma has been used up, and then you're reincarnated.
Yeah, you get a second chance.
And then even heaven, the Buddhist heaven is supposed to be temporary as well, where you're there until you use up your good karma, and then you're reincarnated. And you know, like the end game, so to speak, of Buddhism isn't to go to heaven or hell; it's to go to nirvana, where you just stop being reincarnated, and you kind of lose your individual identity,
which is kind of scary.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But so essentially, yeah. So this is Toriyama doing like I don't think he's like, there's no indication he's an especially religious person, but you know, growing up in Japan with that kind of cultural background, his take if he's like, you know, when he comes up with a version of hell without thinking about it too much, he'll come up with something that's pretty much the Buddhist hell. Just as, you know, if you grow up in a Western country and you kind of do a cartoon hell, it'll probably look a lot like the Christian hell, you know, like The Far Side or Bugs Bunny. They have this kind of shared view of hell.
Yeah, because it's the culture pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but does this not somewhat contradict the anime previously? Because we see Goku going into hell, and it's not exactly... I mean, it's not exact. I just feel like they kind of... I don't know what you'd even call it. Like, okay, why does Frieza have a cocoon? Why didn't he go through the spirit cleanse?
You know, I don't know. But, well, I mean, the spirit cleanse is movie 12. And
well, I know that, but they're talking about... Piccolo just said...
Oh, yeah, well... Yeah, the laundry machines.
The laundry machine. Yeah.
I mean, if we want to if we want to maybe overthink it, maybe him having to sit there and watch all this cutesy crap is his version of having his soul cleaned. Like, maybe they think, like, well, if we just have him watch all this wholesome stuff, eventually he'll be a good guy. Which probably maybe that works with most people, but probably not with Frieza. So, and that's the other, like, maybe it takes a longer. Maybe the whole cleansing thing is a little longer for eviler people, although with Buu it apparently happened immediately, because Oob was apparently born right as Buu was killed.
Yeah, well, that was also because Goku asked a favor, though. I mean, I think he sped it up, yeah. But the thing...
paying extra for expedited reincarnation.
Wacky Dragon Ball. The thing is, though, man, is the anime's edition of Hell has really caused a lot of confusion, because... during the finale of Dragon Ball Z, we see Goku fighting Buu, and we see a shot of Hell with Frieza, Cell, the Ginyu, all these guys down there, Babidi, and that's not in the manga. And here's the fucked up thing, Herms. It's still in Kai. That's one of the... I remember a couple friends of mine who were loving Kai, because they're manga enthusiasts, right? They did not edit the anime version of Hell out of Kai. It's still there, and that directly contradicts the Cocoon Frieza. Because we see Frieza there complaining about Goku winning again, and then we see all of a sudden a Cocoon.
Well, I mean, they made the Buu arc of Kai before Resurrection F came out, right?
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is they didn't have to keep that in there because it wasn't in the manga.
They could have just cut it out on principle, but
exactly.
I mean, I guess at the time there was less reason to cut it out then, although there's still reason.
Yeah, it's a mess, and people, you don't know how many times I've gotten that question, like, oh, well, wait a minute, I thought Frieza was watching the fight. Why is he in a cocoon? And I just, all I tell them is that the Cocoon is Toriyama's version of Hell, and the other thing is Toei's version of Hell. That's the only explanation that makes sense without going into a long explanation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little conflict, but like even the anime version of Hell is a parody of the Buddhist Hell, because like the mountains of spikes and the lake of blood.
Yeah,
those are also like the common features of the Buddhist Hell, and that's why in One Piece, Impel Down, the prison, which it's a place on Earth, but it's modeled after Buddhist Hell as well. They have the same thing. They have things that are kind of modeled after the spike mountains and the lakes of blood.
Yeah,
and like other, it's again the shared cultural background that pops up in a lot of these different series.
Yeah, like Yu Yu Hakusho has their own Enmadayo, King Yama. Yeah. It's Buddhist. Well, actually, then it's Hindu, I think.
Well, originally he's Hindu, but then he spread to Buddhism, and then it's like, and then Buddhism spread from India to Japan, to China, and then from China to Japan. It's like there's like these slightly different versions of the same deity, but it's slightly adapted to each local culture. And, even the name, it's like from Yama to Yenmo in Chinese to Enma in Japanese.
Which is funny because I remember being really pissed when they called him King Yama, because I was like, no, his name's Enmadayo. And then years later, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. King Yama is actually a correct translation based on the original deity. So translations are always, I mean, better than anybody, they're always a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, here it's a name from Sanskrit that's been like filtered through 3 different languages to get to Chinese and then being filtered into English. So
at least they didn't call him King Yama-sama. At least they didn't do that. King Kai-sama. Ugh. Crunchyroll subs annoy me. All right, well, what were you gonna say?
Wait, just wait till he pops up in Super and then see how they handle it.
He has not appeared in Super yet, has he?
No.
Oh, I just realized, like, we saw Baba pop up. We haven't seen Baba until now, at all, and so we might see Enmadayo soon. I mean, who knows? But it doesn't matter. Well, Herms, thank you again, and when you come back next time, we'll cover the aftermath of Vegeta. We'll cover Goku's ass pull transformation that had absolutely no build-up at all. Toriyama himself just came up with it 1 week without question. There's so much evidence that points to that. That's so funny. Then we've got, of course, the fusion and the numerous transfer. To quote Goku, because he said this himself, you transformed so many times it was getting annoying. Because Goku did say that.
Yeah, which is an anime-only line, and I wonder if that's someone at Toei being like, if that's their like expressing their personal displeasure or something.
Or I mean, but Toriyama's always been the kind of guy who's written stuff very self-aware. I'm not saying, I mean, he didn't write that, but I'm saying maybe they wrote it like very self-aware. Like, yeah, it kind of got annoying after a while. So, but thank you as always for being here. Check out Herms98 on Twitter. Do you still have your Patreon up?
Yeah, it's still going.
Okay, I would suggest putting a link to it somewhere on your Twitter. That way it's easy to get access to. I don't see it there as of this recording. I would throw it in your description, so that way I can quickly, so everybody support Herms, all right? Do that.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I'm going to probably soon be kind of revamping my Patreon anyway, but anyway, I'll get to that later.
Yes, so either way, it'll all be there, twitter.com/Herms98. You should know the man by now. I mean, everybody kind of knows this guy by now. The shining star of the translation world. But thank you again, man. I look forward to talking to you soon so we can do the rest of the Buu saga.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Of course, what are you talking about? You're like a damn hero to all of us. Trust me. And we'll talk the hero the community needs, but not the one it deserves, or something. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, something anyway.
Something like that. We'll talk to y'all later.